Hello, BookTube. It's time for another essay. Today I'm taking it, we're doing an essay from, it's either going to be late 16th century, early 17th century China by an author called Hsu Hsieh. And it's from a book called Great Essays of All Nations, 229 essays from all periods and countries, edited by F.H. Pritchard, published by George G. Harrap and Company Limited, and originally published in 1927. My copy is from 1932. It is over 1,000 pages long, and it does indeed cover like ancient Greece, ancient Rome, biblical literature, ancient India, Persia, Arabia, China, Japan, Great Britain, and then most or a lot of Western countries. Pritchard has a little preface to the essay, and it runs, on the following essay, one commentator has said, quote, "It is completed with the breath of a yawn, with a single effort, and it is like a heavenly robe without seam," end quote. Of the author we know little, save that he became senior classic in 1601 and was appointed to the Hanlin College. His brief life was devoted to study, and his chief ambition was the attainment of a fine literary style. The following translation is taken from Professor H.A. Giles's Gems of Chinese Literature by permission of the publisher Messrs. Kelly and Walsh Limited. And it's entitled Antiques. For some years I had possessed an old inkstand left at my house by a friend. It came into ordinary use as such, I being unaware that it was an antique. However, one day a connoisseur told me it was at least 1,000 years old, and urged me to preserve it carefully as a valuable relic. This I did, but never took any further trouble to ascertain whether such was actually the case or not. For supposing that this inkstand really dated from the period assigned, its then owner must have regarded it simply as an inkstand. He could not have known that it was destined to survive the wreck of time and came to be cherished as an antique. And while we prize it now, because it is descended to us from the distant past, we forget that then, when antiques were relics of a still earlier period, it could not have been any value to antiquarians, themselves the moderns of what is antiquity to us. The surging crowd around us thinks of naught but the acquisition of wealth and material enjoyment, occupied only with the struggle for place and power. Men lift their skirts and hurry through the mire. They suffer indignity and feel no sense of shame. And if from out of this mass there arises one spirit purer and simpler than the rest, striving to tread a nobler path than they, and amusing his leisure for his own gratification with guitars and books and pictures and other relics of olden time, such a man is indeed a genuine lover of the antique. He can never be one of the common herd, though the common herd always affect to admire whatever is admittedly admirable. In the same way, persons who aim at advancement in their career will spare no endeavor to collect the choicest rarities in order to, by such gifts to curry favor with their superiors, who in their turn will take pleasure in ostentatious display of their collection of antiquities. Such is but a specious hankering after antiques, arising simply from a desire to eclipse one's neighbors. Such men are not genuine lovers of the antique. Their tastes are those of the common herd after all, though they make a great show and filch the reputation of true antiquarians, in the hope of thus distinguishing themselves from their fellows, ignorant as they are that what they secure is in the name alone without the reality. The man whom I call a genuine antiquarian is he who studies the writings of the ancients, and strives to form himself upon the model, though unable to greet them in the flesh, who ever and anon, in his wanderings up and down the long avenue of the past, lights upon some choicest fragment which brings him in an instant face to face with the immortal dead. Of such enjoyment there is no satiety. Those who truly love antiquity love not the things, but the men of old. Since a relic in the present is much what it was in the past, a mere thing, and so if it is not to things, but rather to men, that devotion is due, then even I may aspire to some day an antique. Who shall say that centuries hence an antiquarian of the day may not look upon me as I have looked upon up to my predecessors? Should I then neglect myself and foolishly devote my energies to trifling with things? Such is popular enthusiasm in these matters. It is shadow without substance, but the theme is endless, and I shall therefore content myself with this passing record of my old inkstand. Now, as I say, I've chosen this one because it's a little different than what we've been doing. We've been doing sort of more books, but this is antiquity, so antique books, well, sort of similar, but it's not an inkstand. Now, where do we go from here for essays? Do you want me to continue? If yes, do you want me to continue with bookish essays, book collecting, or even regarding specific authors? Or do something like this, choose an essay from different periods, different countries, different authors. I have many hundreds of books to choose from, but again, they'll have to be short enough to do on a video. But that's easy enough to find enough to continue with. Do let me know in the comments, and if you don't want me to continue, that's fine. If there's anything else you want me to do, that would be great, and I'll consider it. But take care, BookTube. I hope everybody's well.